Woody Harrelson came to our attention as the lovable bartender Woody Boyd on the television series Cheers. His memorable films have included White Men Can't Jump, Indecent Proposal, and Natural Born Killers. This year he's been particularly busy. He has 3 films due out this year, including the comedy movie about bowling, Kingpin. Harrelson has also been making headlines for his efforts to legalize industrial hemp. He was arrested earlier this month in Kentucky for planting marijuana seeds. I'm pleased to have him here to talk about films and everything else. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie. Good to be here.
It's my pleasure. Let's talk first about the hemp thing and the arrest and what you're trying to say and what you want to say and what's at stake for you.
Cool. Well, first of all, you know, you can't say that I planted marijuana seeds. I mean, you can, but they were, you know, tested, certified, non-psychoactive, low THC, industrial hemp seeds from Europe.
Right.
So it wouldn't matter, you know, you could grow them for years. You'd never get a buzz off of them. You know, you can't get high from hemp, you know. That's one of the things that was unclear, you know. I know, like, people were calling me from different places saying, what, were you planting marijuana? And I'm like, no. You know, and really the only way to test the law, or to know the law, is to test the law. And so Kentucky, I think, is an important place because it used to be one of the primary hemp growers in the nation. You know, and once upon a time, hemp was the #1 crop in the United States. Everything I'm wearing right now is made of hemp, you know, including these shoes are hemp, too, and also recycled material. But, you know, I got into it because, should I just ramble for a moment?
Sure, go right ahead. Yeah.
I got into it because a few years back...
Not rambling so far.
A few years back, I was interested in trying to stop the timber industry from having access to 6 million acres of national forest in in Montana. You know, it's an interesting situation we have in this country. We the taxpayers, build roads for the timber companies into our national forest so that they can cut down our national forest and make a profit. Right. So, and we pay for that, you know, to the tune of billions of dollars. And they do the same kind of thing for petrochemical and pesticide industry and mining industry. And, you know, there's no... they're not giving any subsidies to the hemp industry, but all we ask is that they, you know, get out of the way of the hemp industry and allow us to grow again, you know. And it came to my attention back then when I was, you know, carrying on this fight in Montana, that you can make paper from hemp, you know, and that it used to be made from hemp, and I thought that was, you know, really interesting. But then I found out you can make all kinds of things: textiles, paints, cosmetics. You know, it has about, you know, 1 million different uses. Yeah. You know, and so I thought, you know, it was important to pursue this, but it's not legal to grow here in the United States.
Okay, but your interest grew out of the efforts to protect the natural forest.
You're right.
Yeah,
it came out of the fact that I'm an environmentalist.
Right. And so you were interested in that, and how'd you discover hemp?
I read this book that Jack Herrera wrote called The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Yeah.
And some other literature about it, Lifeline to the Future by Chris Conrad. And I started, you know, reading about hemp, and I you know, I just found out the history of it was fascinating. You know, the reason it got really knocked out of play was because it happened along the time of the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. And in that, that act was really the result of the teaming of Hearst and DuPont. And DuPont had nylon coming out, plus they had a patent on a way to make paper from trees, and Hearst had a lot of trees. Yeah. And so they teamed up and had a yellow journalism campaign, a smear campaign, about what they came to call marijuana because it sounded more insidious, you know. And they got it made, they made marijuana illegal, but it was never intended that industrial hemp should be made illegal, but that was really kind of an offshoot of that Marijuana Tax Act.
So what did you do in Kentucky?
So in Kentucky, I took 4 certified hemp seeds near Beattyville, Kentucky, and planted on some land I have there in order to test this law, which makes no differentiation, particularly in Kentucky. On a national level, there is a law that differentiates to some degree, but in Kentucky, there's no differentiation in the statutes. So the thing was to test it, you know, and I think a jury of my peers in Kentucky is going to find that it's okay to plant industrial hemp, and hopefully it'll revitalize the urban economy there.
And if they don't?
Well, if they don't, I'll take my lumps, you know.
The environment of passion in terms of cause, in terms of a place where you want to put your own efforts and your own credibility and your own energy on.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I look at the situation in the world, you know, I live in this city where the air is unfit to breathe, and, you know, there's the swim at your own risk signs in the ocean, you know, you shouldn't drink the water. And we're all in this mad race to try to you know, be successful, you know, whatever success is. And I know a lot of successful people, know a lot of movie stars, and, you know, and it doesn't seem to make anyone happier, you know, all the money they have. And what I think the source of this unhappiness is, or this, you know, being ill at ease as a society, is really a disharmony with nature. You know, I was just flying in here to New York, and I noticed these, all these, you know, there's huge plots for these graveyards, you know, and I mean, there's a lot of prime real estate in New York, you know, for these graveyards, so that people can, you know, be set down in this pine box and continue to keep separate from nature, you know, and it seems to me that, you know, I go into these hotels where you can't even open a window, you know. We've separated ourselves so much from nature. There's so much distance, you know. And I know that I'm at my happiness when I'm, like, hanging out in the rainforest in Central America. And I have my plot of land, you know what I mean? Yeah. I have my little Noah's Ark when whatever happens, happens. But
where is that plot of land?
In Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica. Yeah.
But, you know, to me, you know, that's when I'm happiest, and I think most people I've hung out with there from the city are happier when they're there, you know. They're happier when they're part of nature, as opposed to, you know, just with this paper, which is just regular paper, you know, that costs 30 million acres of trees a year, whereas hemp paper costs 0, you know, and that's what my whole stance is about.
Let me come back to this, but talk about the film career a little bit. Kingpin will be opening in July. What's it about?
Well, in Kingpin, I play this one-armed ex-bowling champion who hooks up with this Amish kid played by Randy Quaid, and we're going to a bowling tournament in Reno, and it's all about the, you know, the hijinks, and of course Bill Murray lends a lot of madness to the movie, and Vanessa Angel's in it. You know, it's a funny movie. Pete and Bobby Fairley, who did Dumb and Dumber, are the directors and writers, and, you know, they're old friends of mine. You know, I used to room with Pete, you know, 11, 12 years ago, back when he was nobody, and you know, we've been good friends ever since. But
of all the films you've made, what did you like? Which one was the most satisfying for you? What did you like the best? Which one was?
Well, I guess I really enjoyed doing White Men Can't Jump. You know, I had a ball doing that. Just in terms of overall fun.
Yeah.
Well, Kingpin was probably the most fun I had in a way, but I also like Natural Born Killers. That was a pretty wild ride. Yeah.
And the controversy about it?
Well, you know, I'm not saying, I mean, I guess there was understandable controversy, you know, but I thought he was trying to make a statement, you know.
Let me tell you what he says about you. This is a wonderful quote. This is from Oliver. There is a degree of violence that is buried in Woody. You see it in the eyes. He is not a goofball, sweet, charming guy all the way. Anybody who does yoga for sometimes 8 hours a day has got to be suppressing something. I mean, does Stone have a point here?
I love that guy.
Yeah.
He, violence, yeah, I mean, I think in a sense that's true. I've certainly had a lot of fights in my life, maybe as many as Muhammad Ali, but not, official
Have you won
or
as many as Ali?
glorified. Huh?
Did you win as many as Ali?
Well, fortunately, I won a lot, or I probably would have stopped sooner. But I did. I haven't fought since '89. I got into a fight on a basketball court, but that was the last fight I had.
Are you good at basketball? I mean, was that a
well,
natural?
I like to think so, but I think that white men can't jump slogan really applies to me.
Yeah, and to me too. Is Wesley good? Was this something?
Wes was okay, but he got, he's a natural athlete. He got good quick. Of course, he could never really compete with me, but he's not a bad player. I hear you're quite the player.
Well, I play the game. I do. Anybody who grew up in North Carolina plays the game.
Yeah, I guess
you know.
so.
It's like Kentucky, growing up in Kentucky or Indiana or New York. Are you and Wesley, is there a kind of chemistry that works for the two of you?
Well, I think so. In fact, I just saw him last night. He's, in a sense, he's really like a brother to me. And
how so?
I mean, we just relate well together. I love the guy. I really do. He amazes me. He's a very, aside from being really talented actor, I just love his curiosity about life. He's always learning. You go to his house, he's always reading, a prolific reader, and he's, really like a history buff as well. He's a computer. When we were doing Money Train, sometimes he'd come in and he'd just be so tired. I'd be like, what's up? He stayed up all night on his computer.
Yeah.
Going through the web.
How did you get into the acting?
Well, I really have to credit Elvis Presley for getting me into acting. The reason is,
I can't wait.
when I was in high school, after Elvis died, I sent away. You send away 2 cents and you get like 100 records, but then you have to buy them the rest of your life.
Right.
So I did that, and so I started doing this little Elvis, baby, let me be, just messing around. And then one time I was in the library at school, in high school, and I was with some of my buddies on the football team, and they were saying, do your Elvis, right? And the place was packed. It was just before Christmas, as I recall. And so I was like, no. And they were like, come on. Yeah. So I was like, all right. So I started, just singing it kind of softly. Oh, well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? And I started singing. I started getting louder and louder, and pretty soon people are gathering around. And before you know it, I'm like up on the table and just performing. I didn't even know I was a performer, before that. And, everybody really liked it. I got my first applause.
And loved it.
And loved it. I really did, even in that small little... But so then afterwards, this girl comes up to me, Robin Rogers, and she says to me, and she was, one of the cute girls in school.
Now, where was this school?
This was in Lebanon High School in Lebanon, Ohio. And she comes up and she asks if I'd had any interest in, joining theater. She was in the theater department, and I was like, well, no.
I could meet some.
I didn't think.
Yeah.
I thought sports was the way to go, but it turned out theater was definitely the way to go. So. So I went down and ended up, trying out for a play, and I was really into it. And through college, I did about 26 plays. This guy named Doc Evans, who's a marvelous director in this little school called Hanover College in Indiana.
Right.
And that was, that's where I really, I guess, trained in a way.
How did Cheers happen?
Well, Cheers happened because I was out in L.A. doing, Wildcats with Goldie Hawn, and that was the first time I teamed up with Wes, by the way. And someone told me, this guy named Leo Jeter tells me, he was from my college too, and he was living in L.A., and he says, you know, there's this part, and it's called Woody, and the guy's from Indiana, blah, blah, blah. He says, you should go try out for it. So I was like, well, why not? So I went down and auditioned, and I think the fact that I left this, I was doing Biloxi Blues. I was understudying it, Neil Simon play on Broadway, and I had got a hiatus to go do the movie, and I was going to go back and actually get to play one of the roles. So I was jazzed about that. I wasn't even thinking, you know, like television. I was almost a little bit snobbish even at 22, thinking, you know, no television for me. But you know, I auditioned for it, so I wasn't nervous at all. I wasn't, you know, how you freeze up.
Because you could take it or leave it.
Yeah, which is the best way to audition, I find.
Yeah. If you don't need it, you'll get it.
Yeah. You know, in fact, I just recently auditioned for this movie for Jim Brooks with, I auditioned with Jack Nicholson, and I found out how terrifying that can be. I'd forgotten, you know, it'd been a little while. But anyway.
I'll come back to Nicholson. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, so I ended up auditioning, and they liked it, and I came back. And, you know, and every time I came back to audition again, I was unconcerned because I knew I was going to go do Broadway, you know, which was my dream. But so I ended up not going to do Broadway.
Would you like to come back to Broadway?
Oh, yeah. I've been wanting to.
Why don't
Broadway
you do it?
Or
because you got so many movie offers and so many roles that come along.
No, I've just no one's ever. I haven't heard of any recent offers from, you know, the theater in New York. But if a good offer
comes along, you do it.
Yes, I'd be ecstatic to do it.
Yeah. Have you seen Rent?
No, I haven't. I've heard a lot about it. You'll love it. I heard it's great.
Yeah. You've got two films coming out other than this. You got the Larry Flint story, and then there's another film. What's the other one that's?
It's called The Sun Chaser.
It's Michael Cimino.
Yeah, Michael Cimino.
It's sort of a comeback for him.
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah. Knock wood.
Yeah. Is it a Western?
Well, not really. You know, I play a doctor, an oncologist who has this patient who's, you know, like in a juvenile prison, you know, who's had a lot of problems, and he ends up kidnapping me to take me out to this Indian reservation in Arizona, Navajo reservation, to find one of the, you know, medicine men who he thinks can heal him. And so, you know, it's all about that. It's dramatic, really.
Nicholson, how was it?
Well, it was cool, you know. I mean, it was amazing to just to think I was in a scene with Nicholson, you know. I'll probably, you know, never get that opportunity again.
But of all the people you know who are acting, is he the guy that has the career you'd like?
Well, in a way, of course. I mean, all the movies that just were, you know, all those, you know, Last Detail and Five Easy Pieces and Cuckoo's Nest.
Was it Randy Quaid that was in Last Detail? Was
yeah.
That? Sure.
Yeah. So we've come full circle because Randy Quaid's in Kingpin. So I'm getting closer to working with Jack. But I thought he was a fascinating guy. I mean, you know, his intellect is just astounding to me, you know. Of course, most people would say they could understand that statement. But, you know, I was really amazed with him. He was a really gracious guy, you know.
You go to the Lakers game with him.
Yeah, I'd like to work there. Oh, you did?
No, I said you could.
Yeah, I'll talk to him about that.
Yoga. Just one question about yoga. I have a friend of mine who has told me that yoga has changed his life, that he feels 100% better, that everything about the way he functions is better because of yoga.
Well, I've heard that from a lot of people, too.
Is it true for you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, because, see, what happens as we get older is there's energy blockages in the body, you know, throughout the body. You know, in yoga, they talk about the chakras, you know, and those are energy centers throughout the body where the energy passes, you know, mostly using the spine, circles in the body, and it ends up, you know, stopping later on as we tighten more and more because we work out but we don't stretch. And so it's stretching and getting in touch with the breath, and it's slowing down into really a state of dynamic relaxation, you know, which keeps you very present.
You do it every day?
Oh, yeah.
How many hours?
I try to do at least a half hour to an hour.
Yeah.
But you can get pretty jacked up off a half-hour yoga, I'm telling you.
It's great to have you here. Come back sometime.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie.
you
Good
very
to be
much.
here.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson will be right back. Stay with us.